My narcissist stepmom eliminated my daughter because she wouldn't stop humming at the dinner table. I'm Rebecca, and I need you to understand something before I tell you the rest. My daughter Amber was 25 years old. She was brilliant, kind, and she had this habit of humming when she was content. Not loud, not obnoxious. Just this quiet, almost musical sound that meant she was happy. And my stepmom Diane couldn't stand it. The police came to my door on a Tuesday. I was folding laundry in my living room, and I remember thinking how strange it was that they sent 2 officers. One was older, with gray at his temples. The other was younger, couldn't have been more than 30. They asked if they could come in. I let them in. I offered them coffee. They said no. Then they told me Amber was gone. I didn't believe them at first. I just talked to her that morning. She'd called me from Diane's house where she'd been staying for the past 3 weeks. She was saving money for a down payment on a condo, and Diane had offered her the guest room. Amber had been hesitant, but I'd encouraged her. I'd told her Diane had changed, that people could grow, that maybe this was Diane's way of finally trying to be family. I was so wrong. The older officer, Detective Morrison, he cleared his throat. He asked me when I'd last seen Amber. I told him about the phone call. He nodded slowly, glanced at his partner, Mrs. Chen. He said, "We need to ask you some questions about your relationship with Diane Whitmore." Diane, my stepmom, the woman who married my father when I was 16 and made the next decade of my life a calculated nightmare. She never hit me, never screamed. That would have been too obvious. Instead, she did things like throw away my college acceptance letters and claim they never arrived. She told my father I was doing substances when I wasn't, showed him evidence she'd planted in my room. She was methodical, she was patient, and she was very, very good at making herself look like the victim. I moved out the day I turned 18, cut contact with both her and my father. It wasn't until he passed away 5 years ago that I had to deal with her again, the funeral, the estate. She cried beautifully at the service, played the grieving widow perfectly. She even tried to hug me, whispered in my ear that we should let the past go. That family was all we had now. I'd kept my distance after that. But then 6 months ago, she started reaching out. Cards on my birthday, texts asking about Amber, small gifts in the mail. My therapist called it hoovering, said narcissists do this when they want something. But Amber, sweet Amber who always saw the best in people, she thought maybe Diane was lonely. Maybe she was trying. When Diane offered Amber the room, I should have said no. Detective Morrison was still waiting for an answer. I told him everything. Well, not everything. I told him Diane and I had a complicated history, that we weren't close. He wrote things down in a small notebook. Did Amber mention any conflicts with Mrs. Whitmore? He asked. I thought about it. Amber had called me a few times from Diane's house. She'd mentioned that Diane was particular about things. Like the house a certain way. Got irritated by small noises, but nothing serious. Nothing that would make me worry. No, I said. Nothing major. Why? What happened? The younger officer looked at Morrison. Morrison put his notebook away. Your daughter passed away last night, he said. We're investigating the circumstances. Mrs. Whitmore called it in herself. Said she found Amber unresponsive in her room this morning. My hands went numb. What do you mean, unresponsive? We're waiting on the medical examiner's report, Morrison said carefully. But there are some inconsistencies we're looking into. I stood up. I don't remember deciding to stand, but suddenly I was on my feet. What kind of inconsistencies? Morrison and his partner exchanged another look. Mrs. Chen, we need you to stay calm. We're doing everything we can to understand what happened. In the meantime, we need you to tell us everything you know about the relationship between Amber and Diane Whitmore. I told them everything. The humming, the phone calls, the fact that Amber was trying to save money. They listened and wrote and asked follow-up questions. When they finally left, they gave me a card with Morrison's number and told me they'd be in touch. I sat in my living room for 3 hours without moving. Then I drove to Diane's house. It was a 40-minute drive. I didn't think about what I was doing. I just drove. Diane lived in one of those planned communities with identical houses and perfect lawns. Everything always had to look perfect with her. I parked on the street and walked up to her door. She answered on the second knock. She was wearing black. Already, she'd put on morning clothes like a costume. Rebecca, she said, and her voice cracked just right. Oh, Rebecca. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. What happened? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears. She was good. I don't know. I found her this morning. She was in her bed. She looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. The police said there were inconsistencies. Something flickered across her face. Just for a second. Then it was gone, replaced by confusion. What? No, I don't. What inconsistencies? She just didn't wake up. It was probably her heart or something. These things happen. Amber's heart was fine. She had a physical 3 months ago. Diane shook her head, wiped at her tears. Sometimes these things don't show up. Oh God, Rebecca. I know we haven't always gotten along, but you have to believe me. I loved her. She was like a granddaughter to me. I wanted to hit her. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked, can I see her room? Diane hesitated. The police have it sealed off. They said not to touch anything. I just want to see where she was. Please. She studied me for a long moment, then stepped aside. Okay, but we can't go in. The room was at the end of the upstairs hallway. There was police tape across the door. Through the gap, I could see Amber's things. Her laptop on the desk, her shoes by the closet, her phone charging on the nightstand. Wait, her phone was there. Amber never went to bed without her phone. She used it as an alarm. Did the police take her phone? I asked. Diane blinked. What? No, I don't think so. It's right there. Did they look at it? I don't know. Rebecca, maybe you should go home. You're in shock. You need to rest. I turned to look at her. Really look at her. She was 72 years old but looked 60. Botox and fillers and expensive moisturizer. She'd always been beautiful. She'd always known it. And she'd always used it. What happened at dinner last night? I asked. Her perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. Dinner, nothing happened. We had chicken. Amber seemed fine. Was she humming? Diane's expression didn't change, but her hands tightened slightly at her sides. Humming? Amber hummed when she was content. Did she hum at dinner? I don't remember. Maybe. Why does that matter? Because you couldn't stand it when people made noise. My father used to tap his fingers on the table and you'd give him that look. That tight smile that meant you were counting down until you could say something. Rebecca, I think you should leave. Did you say something to her about the humming? humming. Get out of my house. What did you do to my daughter? Diane's face changed. The grief melted away like a mask being removed. What was underneath was cold. I didn't do anything to your daughter. She went to sleep and she didn't wake up. That's not my fault. Now get out before I call the police. I left, but I didn't go home. I went to the police station, asked for Detective Morrison, waited in the lobby for 20 minutes until he came out. Mrs. Chen, he said, I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. Diane did something, I said. I know she did. And I need you to find out what. He guided me to a small interview room, brought me water I didn't drink, asked me to explain. I told him about the phone, about Amber's habits, about Diane's history of manipulation and control. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we're already looking into Mrs. Whitmore. There are some things about her story that don't add up. Like what? I can't share details of an ongoing investigation, but I can tell you we're taking this very seriously. He leaned forward. Did your daughter have any health issues? Any medications? No, nothing. She was healthy. Did she take anything? Supplements? Sleep aids? Just vitamins. Why? Morrison drummed his fingers on the table. The preliminary exam showed some unusual findings. We're running a full talk screen. It'll take a few days to get results back. My stomach dropped. You think she was poisoned? I didn't say that, but that's what you're looking at. He didn't confirm or deny. We're exploring all possibilities. In the meantime, I need you to try to remember everything Amber told you about her time at Mrs. Whitmore's house. Any detail, no matter how small, I tried. I really did, but Amber hadn't said much. Just that Diane was particular. That she had rules about where things went, how things should be done. That she made this tea every night and insisted Amber drink it. Said it was good for sleep, good for stress. The tea, Morrison said, sitting up straighter. Did Amber drink it? She said she did. She said it actually helped her sleep better. Morrison wrote something down, then looked up at me. Mrs. Chen, I need you to do something for me. I need you to not contact Mrs. Whitmore again. Don't go to her house, don't call her, don't text her. Can you do that? Why? Because if she did something, I don't want her to know we're looking at her. People like that, they're smart. They cover their tracks. The element of surprise is the only advantage we have. I nodded. Okay. And Mrs. Chen, I'm sorry for your loss. We're going to find out what happened. I promise you that. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept going through my phone, reading old texts from Amber, looking at photos. There was one from 2 weeks ago. She'd sent me a selfie from Diane's house, smiling, giving a thumbs up. Guest room life isn't so bad. The caption said, I zoomed in on the photo, looked at the background. The room was pristine, perfect, everything in its place. On the nightstand, I could see a mug, steam rising from it, the tea. My phone rang on the 4th day. Morrison. We got the talk screen back, he said. Can you come down to the station? I was there in 15 minutes. Morrison was in the same interview room. This time there was another woman with him. She introduced herself as Detective Lisa Park from the Homicide Division. Homicide. My daughter was murdered. Mrs. Chen, Morrison said gently. The toxicology report showed elevated levels of diphenhydramine in Amber's system. Extremely elevated. Enough to cause respiratory depression and cardiac arrest. What's diphenhydramine? It's an antihistamine. The active ingredient in most over-the-counter sleep aids. Benadryl, Tylenol PM, things like that. Amber didn't take sleep medication. We know. The levels we found suggest she ingested a large amount over a period of several days. Possibly weeks. I thought of the tea. Diane was giving it to her. In the tea, Detective Park leaned forward. We searched Mrs. Whitmore's house yesterday with a warrant. We found bottles of diphenhydramine tablets in her medicine cabinet. And we found traces of it in a teapot in her kitchen and in the mug in Amber's room. The room spun. She poisoned her. She actually poisoned her. We arrested Mrs. Whitmore this morning, Morrison said. She's being charged with second-degree murder. Second degree, not first. I asked why. First degree requires premeditation, Park explained. We can prove she gave your daughter the medication, but proving she intended to kill her from the start is harder. Second degree means she caused death through reckless disregard for human life. Given the amount she was administering, that's what we can make stick. But she planned it. She had to. She knew what she was doing. We'll do everything we can, Morrison said. But I wanted you to hear it from us first. There's going to be media attention. Mrs. Whitmore's attorney is already talking to reporters. He's building a defense that she thought she was helping Amber sleep better. That she didn't know it could be harmful. That's garbage. I know. And we'll prove it. But it's going to be a process. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of lawyers and depositions and court dates. 8 months of watching Diane play the confused old woman who just wanted to help. 8 months of reporters camped outside my house asking me how I felt. If I blame myself for letting Amber stay there. I blame myself every single day. The prosecution built their case carefully. They brought in toxicologists who testified about the levels found in Amber's system. They brought in pharmacists who explained that someone with Diane's education, she'd been a nurse before marrying my father, would have known the dangers. They brought in Amber's friends who testified that she'd complained about feeling groggy, about sleeping 12, 13 hours a night, about feeling foggy during the day. And they brought me, I testified about Diane's history, about the control, about the manipulation, about the humming. The defense tried to paint me as bitter, as someone with an axe to grind against poor Diane who'd only ever tried to be a good stepmother. They showed photos of the cards she'd sent, the gifts. They tried to make it look like I was estranged from my father because of my own problems, not because of Diane. But then the prosecution played their trump card. They'd gotten Diane's phone records. In the days before Amber's death, she'd been searching things like how much Benadryl is lethal, and can antihistamine overdose be detected, and natural causes death investigation. The defense argued she was just worried about Amber's health. Researching out of concern, the jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the forewoman read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Diane didn't react. She just sat there perfectly composed, perfectly still. Then she looked at me. Across the courtroom, through the rows of people, she looked directly at me, and she smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. A smile that said she'd won something I didn't understand yet. Sentencing was 2 weeks later. The judge gave her 20 years to life. At 73, it was essentially a life sentence. She'd die in prison. I should have felt relief. I should have felt like justice was served. deserved. Instead, I felt empty. After the sentencing, Morrison caught up with me outside the courthouse. Mrs. Chen, can I talk to you for a minute? We walked to a coffee shop down the street. He bought me coffee I didn't want, but accepted anyway. There's something I need to tell you, he said. Something that came up during the investigation that we couldn't use at trial. I waited. We found a journal in Diane's house, hidden in her bedroom closet, behind a bunch of old photo albums. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through some images. I took pictures before we had to log it into evidence. The DA decided it was too prejudicial to present, too inflammatory. But I think you should see it. He handed me the phone. The journal entries were dated. They went back 6 months. Right around when Diane started reaching out to me again. The first entry was simple. Rebecca thinks she's so smart, so careful. But she has a weakness. That girl, Amber, always so trusting, so naive, just like her mother. My hands started shaking. The entries continued. Diane wrote about her plan, about how she'd befriend Amber, gain her trust, get her into the house. She wrote about different methods she'd considered. Pills were the safest, she decided, the most natural looking. She could dose them gradually, build them up over time, make it look like sudden cardiac arrest or an aneurysm. But it was the last entry that made me understand everything. It was dated the night before Amber died. Tonight's the night, it read. I've given her enough over the past 3 weeks that her system is saturated. One more big dose and it'll be over. She hummed through the entire dinner, that irritating little sound over and over, just like Rebecca used to do when she was a teenager. Like mother, like daughter, always making noise, always taking up space, always thinking they're special. But here's the beautiful part. Here's what makes this perfect. It's not really about the girl. It never was. This is about Rebecca. This is about making her feel what I felt when she turned everyone against me, when she made Robert question me, when she painted me as the villain. She took my husband's love from me, so I'm taking her daughter from her, and she'll live with this for the rest of her life. She'll blame herself. She encouraged the girl to stay here. She practically handed her to me. That's the real justice, not the death. The guilt, the knowing. That's what will destroy Rebecca. And I'll get to watch it happen. I couldn't read anymore. I pushed the phone back across the table. Morrison took it. I'm sorry, he said. I debated whether to show you, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. All of it. She killed Amber to hurt me. Yes, the humming was just an excuse. She would have found another reason, probably. I sat there in that coffee shop, and I understood the smile Diane had given me in the courtroom. She hadn't lost. Even going to prison, even dying there, she'd accomplished what she wanted. She'd hurt me in a way I'd never recover from. She'd taken the only person I loved more than life itself, and she'd made sure I knew it was my fault. Mrs. Chen? Morrison's voice seemed far away. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I would never be okay again. But I looked at him and I nodded. Thank you for showing me. There's something else. He hesitated. During the investigation, we looked into your father's death. The one 5 years ago, my blood went cold. What about it? He died of a heart attack. But given what we know now about Diane's methods, and given that he was relatively healthy before his death, Morrison shook his head. We can't prove anything. It's been too long and he was cremated. But I wanted you to know we looked. And the circumstances were similar. My father. She might have killed my father too. I left the coffee shop and drove for hours. Just drove with no destination. Eventually, I ended up at the cemetery where Amber was buried. I sat by her headstone as the sun went down. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have protected you. I should have known. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. For a moment, I could almost hear it. That soft humming. The sound of Amber content, Amber happy, Amber at peace. I knew it was just the wind. I knew it was my mind playing tricks. But I let myself believe it anyway. Let myself believe that somewhere, somehow, Amber was still humming. Still finding joy in small moments. Still the beautiful soul she'd always been. And I made myself a promise. I would not let Diane win. I would not let the guilt consume me. I would not spend the rest of my life destroyed by what she'd done. Instead, I would live. I would remember Amber's kindness, her trust, her belief that people could change, could be better. I would hold on to the 25 years I got with her, not the way she was taken from me. Diane wanted to destroy me. That was her final revenge, but I was still here. And I would make damn sure that every day I lived was a day that proved she failed. I stayed at the cemetery until the stars came out. Then I went home. On my kitchen counter, I found a package. It must have been delivered earlier that day. No return address. I almost didn't open it, almost threw it away, but something made me tear the paper. Inside was a small box. Inside the box was a flash drive and a note in handwriting I recognized immediately. Amber's handwriting. Mom, the note read, if you're reading this, something happened to me at Diane's house. I know you're going to tell me I'm being paranoid, but I'm not. I've been feeling weird. Really weird. Tired all the time. Foggy. And I found something in my tea yesterday. Some kind of residue at the bottom of the cup. I saved some of it in a baggie and took photos. It's on this flash drive along with a video I recorded. I haven't watched it back yet, but I set up my laptop to record dinner last night because Diane's been acting strange. I don't know what I'll find, but I wanted you to have it just in case. I mailed this 2 days ago, so if you're getting it and I'm okay, we're going to laugh about this. But if I'm not okay, then you need to see what's on here. I love you. Always. And my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the drive. I plugged it into my laptop. There were 3 files. The first was photos. Close-ups of white powder at the bottom of a mug. Amber had been smart enough to document it. The second was a baggie of the powder itself, sealed in plastic. Evidence the prosecution never knew existed. The third file was a video, 30 minutes long, dated the night before Amber died. I clicked play. The angle showed Diane's dining room. Amber must have positioned her laptop on a shelf or bookcase. You could see the table, 2 place settings. And then Diane walked into frame carrying plates. She set dinner down, called for Amber. Amber appeared, sat down, thanked Diane for cooking. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Amber started humming, softly, almost unconsciously. Diane's head snapped up. Could you stop that? Stop what? Amber asked. That noise you're making. It's distracting. Oh, sorry. Amber stopped humming. Took another bite, but a minute later she started again. Just that soft, unconscious sound of contentment. Diane's jaw tightened. I asked you to stop. Sorry. I didn't realize I was doing it. They finished Finish dinner. Diane stood, collected the plates. I'll make tea. Thanks, Amber said. I'll help clean up. No, you sit. Relax. Diane disappeared into the kitchen. The camera kept rolling. Amber sat at the table, checking her phone. After a few minutes, Diane returned with 2 mugs of tea. She set one in front of Amber, kept one for herself. They talked about nothing important, weather, a show on TV. Diane asked about Amber's job. Amber asked about Diane's book club. Normal conversation. Pleasant even, and then Diane did something strange. When Amber wasn't looking, she reached over and switched their mugs. It was quick, subtle. If you weren't watching closely, you'd miss it, but the camera caught it. Amber picked up the mug that had been Diane's, took a sip, made a face. Something wrong? Diane asked. No, it just tastes a little bitter tonight. Different. I changed the brand. You'll get used to it. Amber nodded, took another sip. Then she started humming again. Diane smiled. Actually smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just won something. That's right, she said. So quietly I almost couldn't hear it. Drink up, sweetheart. Drink every drop. The video ended. I sat there, staring at the black screen, and I finally understood the full scope of what Diane had done. She'd been building up the dosage for weeks. But that night, she'd made the tea extra strong. Double dose, maybe triple. She'd planned to drink it herself, probably to throw off suspicion if anyone questioned why there were 2 mugs. But then Amber started humming and Diane couldn't resist. She switched the mugs, made Amber drink the poison tea, and she watched her do it with a smile on her face. My daughter knew. In those final days, she knew something was wrong. She'd documented it, preserved the evidence, and sent it to me just in case. Even dying, even poisoned and foggy and scared, Amber had been thinking about justice. I called Morrison immediately, told him about the package. He came over that same night with Detective Park. They took the flash drive, the note, everything. This changes things, Park said, watching the video for the 3rd time. This is premeditation. Clear premeditation. We can file for first-degree murder. The trial's over, I said. She's been sentenced. We can appeal. File new charges based on new evidence. With this video, we can prove she planned it, that she knew exactly what she was doing. Morrison was watching me carefully. Mrs. Chen, if we do this, it means another trial, more testimony, more media coverage. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Amber, about her trust, about her kindness, about how even at the end she'd tried to protect me by documenting the truth. Do it, I said. Whatever it takes. I want her to face what she really did. The appeals process took another year. Diane's lawyers fought it, argued that the video was inadmissible, that Amber's note wasn't properly authenticated, that the whole thing was circumstantial. But the prosecution had forensics experts enhance the video, verify its authenticity. They had handwriting analysts confirm Amber's note. They had the residue from the baggie tested. It was pure diphenhydramine, crushed into powder, and they had Diane's journal entries to prove intent. The appeals court ordered a new trial. This time, it took the jury 4 hours to come back with a verdict. First-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to life without possibility of parole. Diane was 84 years old now. She'd spent the last year in prison, and it had aged her. She looked frail, small, nothing like the powerful woman who'd controlled my childhood and murdered my daughter. At sentencing, I was allowed to make a victim impact statement. I stood at the podium and looked at her. Really looked at her. You wanted to destroy me, I said. You wanted me to spend the rest of my life broken by guilt. And for a while it worked. I blamed myself. I questioned every decision I ever made. I wondered if I could have prevented this. Diane was watching me with those cold eyes. But then I got Amber's package, and I realized something. She knew. She knew what you were doing, and she fought back the only way she could. She documented the truth. She made sure that even if you killed her, you wouldn't get away with it. My daughter was smarter than both of us. She was stronger than both of us. And her last act on this earth was making sure you'd face justice. I took a breath. So no, Diane, you didn't destroy me. You didn't win. Because every day I'm alive is a day where Amber's legacy continues. Every day I'm alive is a day that proves love is stronger than hate. And every day you spend in prison is a day that proves that actions have consequences. I turned to leave, then stopped, looked back. Oh, and one more thing. Amber's video, the one where you poisoned her, I'm releasing it to the media. Every news station, every true crime podcast, every documentary maker who wants it. The whole world is going to see exactly what you did. They're going to see you switch those mugs. They're going to see you smile while you watched her drink poison. You wanted attention? You wanted to be remembered? You got it. You'll be remembered as exactly what you are. A murderer who couldn't stand the sound of a happy person humming. Diane's composure finally cracked. Her face twisted with rage. She never shut up. Always that noise, that constant noise. Court is adjourned, the judge said loudly, banging his gavel. Guards moved to take Diane away. She was screaming now. Years of perfect control shattered in seconds. She was just like you, always taking up space, always thinking she mattered. You both should have been quiet. You both should have known your place. They dragged her out still screaming. I walked out of that courtroom and into the sunlight. Morrison was waiting outside. You did good in there, he said. I meant what I said. About releasing the video. I know. The DA already approved it. It's going out tonight on the evening news. I nodded. Good. What are you going to do now? He asked. I thought about it. I'm going to go to the cemetery. I'm going to tell Amber that we did it. That she did it. That her last gift to me was justice. I looked at Morrison. And then I'm going to start living again. Really living. The way she would have wanted. He smiled. I think that's a good plan. I went to the cemetery that evening, sat by Amber's headstone as the sun set, told her everything. About the trial, about the video, about Diane finally showing her true face. And then I did something I hadn't done since she died. I hummed, softly, gently, that same unconscious sound of contentment that Amber had made all her life. The sound that Diane had hated, the sound that had been Amber's tell for happiness. I hummed, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt something like peace, because Diane had wanted to silence us, to make us small, to punish us for taking up space, for making noise, for daring to be happy, but we were still here. Amber's memory was here. Her evidence was here. Her justice was here. And I would spend the rest of my life making sure the world remembered her not as a victim, but as the brilliant young woman who'd solved her own murder. I hummed hummed, and the wind picked up, rustling through the trees. And I swear, just for a moment I heard it echo back.